first one that we will tackle today will be the Second Amendment County. That is one that, as I read it and I see it, it's more of a feel-good, symbolic gesture that we would make. It is, as everybody I think knows, it probably doesn't have any teeth to it, but sometimes we should be able to feel good. There are many counties across the state of Nebraska that have decided to go this way. Governor Ricketts this last week, I believe it was last week, came out in support of it also and did it as the state is concerned. I did talk to the county attorney about this. I did talk to the sheriff about this. I would actually like to ask those two, one at a time obviously, to reiterate their comments if they would, and then we'll get to the public, the ones that showed up to do this, and then we'll discuss it, amongst ourselves after that. So, Sheriff, you want to kick us off, please, if you would.
Sheriff Burke, York County. I attended a meeting last week with the Sheriff's Association in Lincoln and spoke with 8 of the sheriffs throughout Nebraska. And all the sheriffs are supporting the Second Amendment protocol in the state of Nebraska. And I also spoke with Sheriff Vance in Seward County, and I know their county board addressed it, I think, 2 weeks ago. So at this point, I support the Second Amendment for individuals that are, concealed carry or, for lawful usage of a firearm in their home, to protect their family. So that's what my department and my deputies will support in York County. So.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of Sheriff Willis sitting up here? None? Thank you.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
Paul. John, would you like to speak to this at all?
Sure.
Rare that you'd turn down an opportunity to speak.
Well, since you asked.
Okay.
So from a law enforcement standpoint, our office, we also agree with the sheriff. One of the oaths that I take, same sheriff and everybody else here, is that we'll uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Nebraska, and the laws of the United States and the laws of the state of Nebraska. And we will do that. Personally, I am the founder and the former past president of my own law school Second Amendment law group, and we issue different opinions and writings on Second Amendment issues in Mississippi. I'm an avid gun owner myself, a reloader, and I support any laws that promote responsible gun ownership. And we think that we have those laws in place here. I come from my home state is a little bit more liberal on gun laws. We don't require permits from the sheriff to purchase a gun. We don't require any type of registrations. And so that's where I came from, a sporting state, and that's what I'm sort of geared towards. So we support the Second Amendment. We have a duty to defend the Second Amendment. As a voter, I'll say, and my understanding of the Constitution is that our founding fathers gave us the First Amendment. They thought it was so important that they gave us the Second, and that protects that First Amendment. So as a servant of the people of this county, my job is to enforce whatever rules you, the policy makers, set. And it's with that duty that we will carry out with fidelity. So.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Okay, gentlemen, if you would, one at a time, if you'd like to testify today or talk to this matter today, just give us your name and address for the record and comments that you would like us to hear.
Thank you, guys. My name's Tim Martin. I'm a resident of Henderson, 701 Highland Road, neighbor of Mr. Baumsberger.
How do you spell your last name?
Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Actually, I lived the first 30 years of my life in Southern California. And so I wanted to be able to speak to this issue. I feel it's a privilege to be able to, take the opportunity to speak into this. I consider myself a lay student of history, and I have this urge to, take this opportunity to talk about the history of gun rights, Second Amendment rights, things like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to share a quick anecdote or two and talk about, what it means to me to live in this state now, to enjoy the freedom that we have under the Second Amendment and greater level of protection versus what I lived under for 30 years. And so basically what I want to say is I experienced a time and a place in Southern California up until just 5 years ago when I came here, where the goalposts constantly moved, and where you actually experience as a sportsman, as a target shooter or gun owner, I'm also a reloader, that one day you might be perfectly legal in something you purchased and owned and used, and the next day at the stroke of a pen you might be a felon if you did not completely change and reorient your lifestyle and get rid of things that you owned. That was the literal state that you lived under as a sportsman or a gun owner in that state. And my guess is in this room, there's at least a few other people that have not had the privilege of living in a place like Nebraska their entire life and know that to some degree or another, but that was what I experienced. So I can tell you the anecdote I want to share would be being perfectly legal public land target shooting with perfectly legal firearms and having state, county, and local authorities show up, take away those firearms, not give any kind of information about how long they're taking them away, why they are, remove them for a period of an hour while going over minute details of components of those firearms, and strong-arming you and just telling you just shut up and stand aside, we're going to find out if you're in trouble today or not. And then finally grudgingly give you back your possessions and take off without a further word. And having a thing like that happened to me. And the realization of the kind of fear tactics of what's used in a place like that against gun owners, even when perfectly legal and in compliance with every possible state and local law as well as federal. It's just a completely different environment. It's something that's hard to describe when sportsmanship is a core part of your lifestyle. I'm deeply resisting the urge to go broader and more global and talk about history and the last century and what we see when gun rights are removed from populations under increasingly centralized power structures that are further removed, right, from local areas where people are just trying to live their lives. So I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say that I think we know. I don't need to lecture you guys. I know that in this room. So with that, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you.
guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll sit down here. My name's Steve Stebbing, and that's spelled Stebbing. And I'm actually a Hamilton County resident, but 80% of my life in York County, and part owner of a business in Henderson. And just wanted to come here and, number one, thank you for putting this very important issue on the agenda to be discussed in a meaningful and constructive way. And thanks to the county attorney and the sheriff for speaking up and giving their position on this topic as well. So we're talking about 27 words. The Second Amendment, if you count them out, that's exactly what it comes out to be. And it essentially says that individuals have the right to bear arms, and that the right to bear arms should not be infringed upon. And I think it's critically important to recognize that the purpose behind sanctuary counties is coming from a overreach from certain governments, whether it was the state of Virginia or what we're hearing out of Washington from the current administration, presidential administration there, is that individuals wish to protect themselves, protect their families, protect their properties, And also, quite honestly, to stand side by side with local law enforcement to help protect them. I mean, they have an incredible job of trying to defend the residents of this particular county, if we're talking about our sheriff here, and many times feel as though that they're kind of at the losing end, because that occupation is just so difficult. So this is an issue also of individuals being able to stand with local law enforcement and send a message to our state officials and our federal officials that we all stand together for the Second Amendment, and that cannot be tainted. So just ask that you please duly consider that our God-given right that was given to us through the Bill of Rights, the Second Amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak today?
Willard Peterson, 514 Road 13, and I concur with everything these gentlemen have said. You get into philosophy, you get into a whole lot of other things, but if you look at the Constitution as an educator, in elementary, we did some, talking about the Constitution, not a lot, because, you have to do age appropriate and so forth. But the fact is that in my 40-year career, I did my best to teach kids that the Constitution is the most important thing. If you live in this country, the Constitution is the most important thing. You have to have a set of rules. You have to have a set of guidelines. And I tried to teach my kids that when they listen to news reports of any kind, television, whatever, you have to take what they're saying with a grain of salt. It's their opinion. News media tries to say they report the facts. Well, maybe 100 years ago they used to, but in my opinion, not much anymore. It's opinions. And so I tried to instill in kids that you have to listen, you have to make decisions for yourself. But I also told them, be very careful about just believing the first thing you heard or whatever, no matter what side or whatever. And I think that's what's got us in a lot of trouble, is too many people have not gone by that kind of philosophy. So I think it's very imperative that us as adults, look at the Constitution in the way it should be looked at. And that is, not so much even word for word, but the spirit of what it was written in. And so therefore, like I said, I see no point in, there shouldn't even be a reason we're even talking about this issue, because it should just be a no-brainer. Unfortunately, it's not. So therefore, I would ask that your strong consideration to supporting this.
Thank you, Willard. Yes, sir.
Brett Jost, 908 South Y Road, Henderson, Nebraska.
What was that again, sorry? Your name again?
Brett
Brett.
Jost, yep. So I live on the boundary of York, Hamilton County, and I understand the Hamilton County had this meeting last night. It went well with the Second Amendment, and I'm simply here just to voice support, as these men did. And I believe it's very important to our freedoms, and we don't want to become California. So let's start at this stuff right now and stand strong. So, and you could share some gravel with us if you have any extra.
Thanks, Brett. Are you on the Hamilton County side, did you say? Okay.
1 mile in. Yeah. Right, Steve? That's right.
Anybody else? Gentlemen?
Is it our turn?
Any comments? Dick?
Yes, I have a comment.
I know you
These gentlemen probably don't know me. I was law enforcement for 40 years in York, and I totally support everything you've said. However, we get social media out there telling these people, you know, bunker up and fight and everything. Like I said, I was a police officer, and I definitely agree to support the police. I would never draw my weapon against the police. So I would say to you, first of all, the First Amendment gives you the right to speech, correct? And religion. There's other things in there. The second one gives you the right to keep and bear arms. The Fourth Amendment protects your rights from unreasonable search and seizure. Therefore, my comment would be is if any law enforcement agent, whether it's federal, state, local, is to go ahead, get the officer's name, make him give you a receipt for any weapons they take, because then you've got civil recourse to go back and sue them for violating their oath of office, because they all took an oath of office. I know I took several times oath of office, and I've never been relieved of any of them. That's all the comment I have.